Do not adjust your digital device. What you are about to see and hear may shock and appall you. Join our hosts as they encounter countless thrills, spills, chills, and hilarity as they explore the very weirdest in pop culture. The following media is so strange, so beyond the scope of what is normal, it will make you ask the question, why does this exist? Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Why Does This Exist?
And I'm Rob.
I'm Chris. Today, we have entered the Halloween spirit. We have entered October. It is glorious and gory and all those things.
The spirit of the Nightman.
Yes, the spirit of the Nightman indeed. It is almost 11 o'clock on a Friday night, so maybe we'll have a little bit of extra time to be goofballs. Maybe we won't. It doesn't matter at the end of it.
It doesn't matter!
It doesn't! We're going to be talking about probably the wackiest, well, some of the wackiest heavy metal that you've ever heard. I know I probably say that every time, but it's true. Not as wacky as Gwar, but basically they're cousins. It's basically Gwar's cousins. We're talking about Ghoul. Ghoul is absolutely insane. They're just as batty as you expect. Their show is a little bit more of a budget-friendly production of what Gwar does, but it still does the same job. They're a lovely band. They're very funny. I've interviewed Digester a couple of times. He's very funny. I'll share some stories. But before we do that, in case you didn't know, we are Why Does This Exist? We're a podcast that talks about the very weirdest in pop culture, whether it's a crazy thrash metal band like we're about to do, a wacky TV show like we just did with Courage the Cowardly Dog, some crazy movies like we are about, like that should be coming at you in a few weeks once the spooky season ends, with Big Trouble in Little China, and we also do strange products, which we haven't quite done a whole lot of that. In fact, I think we've only ever really just done like a comic book thing as far as products are concerned. But we do have some coming up with the Funko Pop, so that's a little bit of behind the scenes.
I guess you could consider the Disney rides a strange product one.
Oh yeah, that's true. I forgot we did that. And also Weird New Jersey is a strange product too. So we've done a couple. Anyway, we like to talk about weird stuff in pop culture. And you could support us a number of ways. The first is by going to Patreon. That's patreon.com/whydoesthisexist. That's the best way. Give us some money. You'll get access to the Discord server. We'll put you on the show. You can talk to us. You can yell at us. You can give us ideas. You name it. And we'll also roast you. And not like chestnuts on an open fire. More like your balls on an open fire. Yeah. We're going to get into things. We will roast you, and it will be great. You can also do so. You can also support us on Patreon. You can also support us on social media. Largely, it's just Facebook because all other social medias are pretty stupid and pointless. Even that one is still pretty damn stupid and pointless. It's all stupid and pointless, ladies and germs. Everything is stupid and pointless. My hair is stupid and pointless. That's why it's falling out. Amongst the stress that I get from my everyday life. But yeah, you support us on Facebook, send us some weird pictures and stuff, and maybe we'll be nice to you for a change. Or you can also just plain straight listen to the show, or just go on YouTube, bump up our subscription numbers, bump up our comments, do all the things that the algorithm tends to like for reasons. so that way we can make more money. That's what it's all about, folks. It's not about giving you a good show. It's all about the Benjamins.
Money, money, money.
Speaking of things that make money, you are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge from a ragtag group of rogues. So let's get on with the goddamn show. Botch.
Fucking Botch
All right.
Mania.
Tell Botchamania running wild. Tell the people about Ghoul. What do they need to know?
Ghoul from an American thrash metal band from Creepsylvania, aka Oakland, California.
Yes.
But they, like you said, they're kind of like they're like the Great Value Guar. Basically, they're they're known for their comedic songs and their crazy characters that they sing about, including
and murder sometimes,
including Mr. Fang, the Swamp Hag, the Mutant Mutilator, among others.
Yep. You don't necessarily get a whole lot of blood and gore like you do with Guar, but it's a drier show, but the music itself I think is much better than Guar. So I think that's what the trade-off is. I think Guar has a bigger budget for theatrics, where I think Ghoul is just technically a better band. Like musically, they have the strangest style I've ever heard, because it's not just thrash metal; it fuses surf rock, and it fuses surf rock and punk and all this like wild
crossover
stuff
mixed with thrash. Well, I guess that really is crossover, and is
that would be
basically
crossover.
So it's punk mixed with thrash and
like death metal
and like grindcore, like a little grindcore like sprinkled on top a little bit. It's
a big hodgepodge of things, but there is a heavy surf undertone, which is really the craziest thing about the band.
I never really listened to Ghoul when we were like, back in the thrash metal days. I obviously had heard them before, and I had like listened to a couple of their songs, but I wasn't like, they weren't like a regular in my rotation. But I know a lot of people that loved Ghoul. Like our one buddy Ray Brutal, shout out to him. He was like a huge fan of Ghoul. Like I think it was one of his favorite bands. He would talk about them all the time and how good they were. And they are great. They're like, again, they embody that like new wave of thrash metal pretty well. They started back in 2001, so they could be considered one of the earlier bands of the new wave of thrash metal. They might be even like the earliest, technically, because there really wasn't much. I mean, Lich King was out, I think, in 2004 is when they formed. There were a couple here and there in the early 2000s, but it wasn't like big. So Ghoul is definitely one of the first of the new wave of thrash.
I don't even know if I would. I guess you could kind of lump them in with that, but I would lump them in with
it, because they are thrash. They have thrashy songs despite the death metal vocals. Like
I don't know. I would maybe say that they evolved to be more of a thrash band, and they were more of like a death metal band first, or like a death grind band, and they evolved into thrashier stuff. Something like that. I would say that, because I mean the band members, they're also in this other band a lot. Like a few of the members, they're also in this other band called Impaled, which it's a backronym that stands for Immoral Medical Practitioners and Licentious Evildoers. But that's Impaled. It's got like a few of the main. It's got quite a few of the main guys, which is like the worst kept secret that they're the Ghoul guys.
So the Ghoul guys are all like much like Guar and Ghost. They all go by aliases, and for a long time they tried to. They were like, you didn't know who they actually were, but obviously that came out like eventually. So you have Cremator on vocals and bass, Digester on vocals and guitar, Dissector on vocals and guitar, and Fermentor on vocals and drums. And then there's been a bunch of former members, and many of them have used those monikers as well. The original Fermentor was Raul Varela, It's now Justin Enos. So there's been a number of lineup changes.
Oh wait, hold on. Justin Ennis is in Guar now.
Yeah,
Is in Ghoul now.
it's playing drums.
Oh wow, good for him. Huh. Cool. That guy. I believe he used to be a bartender at St. Vitus for a bit, but he was in this really cool black metal band. Ah, God, I forget the name of the damn band, but they were like. They're like their email was like realghosts@gmail.com or
Oh,
something like that, I think. Um Sorry to dox that. I hope that it's not like still active and
botched.
they don't get flooded by people. But yeah. Um I forgot what the hell the name of this band was, but yeah, you'll I guess you'll see who well I guess if you like look up his thing then like then you'll see it. But that's really freaking cool. I'm glad. Like he's a really nice guy, actually.
Um. Do- so
But
yeah.
anyway,
Uh. Like the lineup has changed over the years, and they've some of the new members have used those same monikers. Some have used others. You have Dr. X, who played drums in 2001. For the most part, though, they've kind of stuck to the cremator, digester, dissector, and fermenter monikers. So of course they also
oh, Mutilation Rights. That was the name of the band. Are you
that's
sure?
what it says
Okay, I'm not seeing it on
on
his like
Wikipedia.
specific. Okay, I'm not seeing him specifically on the Metal Archives, but if it says on Wikipedia, then we'll have to trust it then. But he is a
Yeah, it
very
says since
nice guy.
2017.
Okay, well
Yeah.
then, good for him. Good for him. Nice guy.
Although I would probably trust
Anyway,
Metal Archives more, so maybe it's not true. Maybe I botched.
well, it wouldn't be your fault.
Yeah, it's Wikipedia.
But anyway, that doesn't matter. It's Ghoul, baby.
So I remember when I used to think Ghouls from Pennsylvania, and that like they just said Creepsylvania as like like a as like a code word or something. I didn't know they actually just made up Creepsylvania, and they're actually from California. Um, so I was like, I always thought that. I'm always like, oh, they must be from like Philly or something.
I mean, that wouldn't be like necessarily the worst.
Yeah.
But yeah, I found out about this band from cable TV because I it was on Music Choice one day. Rest in peace. I think I had it on the death metal channel
Oh
or the
yeah.
extreme. No, I had it on the extreme metal channel, and Ghoul came up because I think it was around October, which would make
Yeah.
sense. Um, and I think the album Maniacs was like a song from that was playing, and I was like, whoa, this is interesting. I don't know what to think of it. And then of course I eventually like seeked out more Ghoul stuff when I got into like playing in heavier bands, and then I was like, oh okay, these are those guys because I could never find the album at like an FYE
Yeah.
or anything. Are they still around?
There
I
are,
don't
but
know.
their FYE is like completely different from what it used to be. They have like barely any music now. It's basically become a fucking like
Oh,
pop
that's a
figure
shame.
store. Yeah,
Oh,
it is
that's
awful.
awful.
Like it really is. And it's like so stupid. Um
Well, may it rest in peace. Anyway, so like I would because like FYE had a bunch of
oh
obscure
yeah.
stuff that you couldn't really find in
I
a lot of places, which was weird because it was a big
Yes.
box store.
Well, no, it
But
was that's what
yeah,
was
so
great
like
about let me just do a little aside on FYE for a minute because I have to like a lot of people like younger people that didn't go to FYE back in the day might not know, but like that was the place to get everything like obscure. Like I remember I bought King Diamond there. I bought
mhm.
DRI albums there. I think like Crossover
I
and something else I bought there. I bought like several King Diamond albums there. They also used to have like really good anime selection, like DVDs. Like
Yeah, they had a very good video
Yeah.
selection. They had a lot of
Yes.
great horror movies there that you couldn't find anywhere else. I think I believe I found like Dead
Yes,
Alive
they
in
had a
there,
lot of, like,
and
obscure shit.
I I found a bunch of wacky stuff that I never thought I would find at an FYE. But also, it was like the weird thing was that like you weren't going to like an odd part of
That
town
was
or
in the mall.
anything to like go to an FYE. Like
Yeah.
it was in the mall, so like it was just it was just really baffling that you could find all that. They also had a great wrestling
Yeah.
DVD selection.
It was amazing that they were able to fit all of that in a one store because they really like it was a mall store. So yeah, it would be like a bigger store in the mall, but like they had it was huge inside and they had like a massive music section, a massive video section. Plus they had like all like the cool little like stuff that you could like like little tchotchke stuff and like memorabilia, and then they had like cool like candy, like they had a big candy set because it was basically supposed to be like a one-stop shop for like entertainment. So like, you buy a couple DVDs, you buy some like candy and popcorn and shit so you could like go home, like make some popcorn and sit down and watch a movie. They had all kinds of music. And then I remember they used to have like really obscure like candies and like novelty like drinks and stuff. Like they had like the Super Mario energy drink. Uh and it was like, it had like Super Mario on it, and it was like a like, like the mushroom, the from Super Mario. So they had a
Yeah.
lot of cool stuff, and it sucks that they, have become something shitty now. But anyway, I digress.
Well, that is such is life. Anyway, I remember like I went to an FYE and I was like trying to find this, but I only knew it from the album cover and I couldn't find that cover art. So I don't remember. I think somebody had it as a patch, or I think our friend Joe, maybe? Oh, no, I don't know. Well, anyway, somebody in one of the bands that I was in, we like they had it, and like I was like, oh my god, I've been trying to find that. Who is that band? And they were like, oh, it's Ghoul, and then I fell in
Yeah.
love with Ghoul. And I would later go on to interview them a couple times, and they were really cool people. But anyway, like I, I've only seen them once, I
Yeah.
think. I'm pretty sure I've only seen them once, but I was so happy to see them. Yeah, no, I only saw them once because I didn't get the chance to see them with Guar. I wish I saw them with Guar. I heard that that was like the
Well,
best show ever, and our friend Ray Brutal has said that that was the best one. I mean, also that was the last show in New York City was the one before Corey Smoot passed away, and then a couple of years later, Odorous
oh yeah.
Urungus passed away, which we had talked about in the
Yes.
Guar episode many moons ago. If you want to look that up, and our bad audio quality from
Oh
my
yeah.
end, um, but Ghoul is just they're so wacky because they are theatrical, but they are also like they're like technical music
Yes.
wizards. But they have a bunch of albums. For like a while they were releasing things for like clockwork, and they've kind of slowed down in the last couple of years. They haven't really done anything since like well, I mean, COVID kind of ruined
They actually
everything,
released a
which
live
everyone
album
knows
in
that.
2021.
Yes, that's the last thing that they did, and there's like a video accompaniment, but they also have like a comic book that they had for sale on their merch site. They also had and they had some really cool shirts, but they've got a bunch of wacky characters that like similar to Guar that they introduce through the albums, and then that character is made into like a real they like create a costume for it, and they make it into a real person their um for their tour, and it's a lot of fun to see. And also, it's like they're equally offensive as Guar. Maybe like not as rude as Odorous Urungus was, but they're still like
Yeah.
pretty damn like rude and offensive. And they have their own silly little like back lore where Creep Sylvania is like it's supposed to be like somewhere in
In
like
Romania.
Yeah, somewhere in Romania. So they all speak with these fake Romanian accents, or these like fake Eastern European accents that like and they all wear potato sacks over
Yeah.
their heads, like stained in blood. So they're like alleged to be like alcoholic cannibals because they drink something called rot gut, and it's just it's such a funny lore.
Mhm.
And like, of course, they're like every villain that they encounter wants to stop them and kill them, and they're just being silly, and they kind of
Yeah.
bumble into them in their stories. And then they, of course, because someone's trying to kill them, they now have to kill them, like the Killbot, or oh god, what the hell is the guy, or Krieg,
Uh,
or like who's this other it doesn't matter. There's a bunch of dudes that they've got.
Killbot,
They have like a whole
Kogar, the
like Nazi
Destructor,
guy.
Baron Samedi,
Yes, yes, the
Krieg,
soothsayer.
motorcycle and
Yeah,
surfing
there's a
enthusiast,
bunch of
monster.
them.
That's how Krieg is described.
Yes,
Commandant Janish Dobrinkum, the ruler of Creepsylvania.
that is the guy who
Oh,
I'm
okay.
talking about. Yes, it's just it's just
The
so
characters
silly.
they come
And
up with are like just wacky, and it's pretty hilarious. Killbot Mark 1 and Mark 2, which Mark 2 has Walt Disney's brain.
yeah, which they play like which like at like the live show, they'll play like they'll play clips of Walt Disney like giving a speech or something like over the air, and they're just like, what the hell is going on? So like they break the fourth wall like pretty often, and it's like during the shows, and
Yeah.
it's really freaking
I love
hysterical.
like some of the freaking descriptions, like Constant Spoogius, Death Humper, Holocaust survivor, child predator, Salvation Army bell ringer. Like it's just like the fucking most wacky characters that they came up with. I would say even more wacky than
Yes,
Guar. Like they're a little bit like even more out there. Like not costume wise, obviously, because their costumes are very basic. It's like they're just wearing burlap sacks over their heads. But like,
yeah. Which how do you
I
play that? Like how do you play that music
I
with a
don't know.
burlap
It'd be
sack over
probably
your
so
head?
hot under the lights.
It's really technical. It must be.
They almost look like friggin' Scarecrow, like a little bit.
They do. They do look like Scarecrow.
Uh, but yeah, like the characters they came up with are just so out there and hilarious. It
Yeah. And I mean the music was originally like deathier
yeah,
and grindier, and it got surfier and
yeah.
thrashier over time. So that's just I always found that to be interesting. But I mean I guess they just kind of embraced like who was coming to their
Well,
shows more often, and also just like, like and they just evolved naturally over time, where like if you listen to the first album and then you keep going, it's pretty seamless. Like you'll just like the only thing that really changes other than like the production quality, it's mostly like it's there isn't ever a moment where you're like, oh,
yeah.
that's weird. Like if you listen to like one song from each release, you wouldn't just think, oh, what is that doing there? You'd like it all kind of makes sense as you like follow the progression of the
Yeah.
band. So it's really cool to see that evolution
Well,
if you do one
it
song
also
per
kind of makes
release.
sense for like the evolution of like music at the time, because when they came into the scene in 2001, again, we said that this was like kind of pre like new wave of thrash metal a little bit. Like they would be probably one of the first, but like their music was more like like death metal-y or grindcore back then. It was very like much like a different sound. And then like as thrash metal became more popular again in the mid to late 2000s and then to the early 2010s, that's when they kind of got thrashier. And it's kind of like
Yes. There was a similar band that had come on. There was a similar band around the time too, and called Frightmare that did
yeah.
similar things.
I-
And they were pretty good too. But I think they kind of were like, if they were more like true to their
yeah.
roots, where Ghoul ended up evolving. But yeah, Frightmare was very
It's
similar. That was another one that I really liked. That also from Music Choice, very
yeah.
obscure band.
There's there's like it's interesting because they did a cover of Skull Beneath the Skin by Megadeth on the first album, and it like, obviously they're not doing it as like a thrash song, they're kind of doing it as like a death metal song, and it's like a completely different feel. It sounds like a whole new song. So like, yeah, it's interesting. That progression that they kind of had over the years. Uh and it really did follow like the progression of the metal scene at that time. How like, it everyone like, we talked about this a little bit on the thrash metal episode, how like in the early 90s with the advent of grunge, like metal kind of took a hit, but like only like specific genres, like pretty much glam metal got wiped out, and thrash metal took a big hit, and like a lot of the thrash bands changed their sound. And then, but throughout the 90s, like death metal kind of really reigned supreme, and like a lot of like different, and prog metal too kind of like really started to gain a following throughout the 90s. And so
Yeah.
like it makes sense that Ghoul coming in 2001 had that more of a death metal feel, because that was just the metal that was kind of like still surviving at that time from the 80s, whereas thrash metal was just starting to gain a foothold again. You had some of the older thrash bands at the time like were kind of like starting to get back a little bit into thrashier albums, but not like fully yet. Kind of like, I think Tempo of the Damned, Exodus didn't come out till 2004, I think, and that was kind of like Exodus's return to like the OG thrash sound. Yeah, it was 2004. So like,
which I guess you could say what like kind of was where it like kickstarted.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, I guess it was. I guess that was like the pre-stage, and then I want to say like once you really got into like the new wave of thrash, it was like around 2008.
Yeah, I would even say
when you at least saw it. I would say as early as 2006 was where it was really starting to like.
Well, that was
take
like
shape.
Back in the MySpace days, and again for the kids listening that may not be that old, MySpace was like the social media before Facebook was even a thing. And it was like awesome.
I mean, it was kind of like the OG.
It really was,
social
and it was
media. Because it was like that, and there was like Meat Spot, and there were a couple of other ones for
like,
a little
kinda
while.
Yahoo
like,
kind of tried to get into like it a little bit, because they had like Yahoo Messenger and stuff, and like if you had like a Yahoo email address, like you had like a whole like profile and stuff, I guess. But MySpace was really like the first like traditional, I think, social media that kind of like what we know today as social media. But it was like so much more advanced, and you could do so much more, and it became really like a spot for underground bands and musicians and indie rock and all kinds of like people to like really put their music out there. And that's, I think, what kind of drove the new wave of thrash metal, because when I was like, like late in high school and then early college, I discovered so many bands, like thrash metal bands, from MySpace, basically.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did too. And a lot of it was just like, it wasn't even just by finding the band. It was like, you would just go on somebody's profile and like, and then you would just be like, oh, I like that. And then you would see the band who like did it. And then you would find the band's MySpace page, and then you would find the albums. And then, if you actually had money and were 13 or could find this, or could get your parents to get you money, then you went to the store and you bought the album. And if you couldn't, then like you just downloaded it from like a Kazaa or FrostWire or LimeWire or something.
But also, like a lot of the bands just put their music out on MySpace for free because they were like indie bands anyway, and they were like, it was almost like akin to kind of like the tape trading scene in the 80s, where bands would just put their music on cassette tapes and then like trade it with other bands. It was similar to that.
That's something that's never been replicated since by social media.
No, that's what I was saying. Like MySpace, it was such a different thing, especially because you could completely customize every aspect of your MySpace page through HTML. Like if you knew how to code HTML, you could like completely design your MySpace page the way you wanted it to look. colors and texts and all and like, borders and fonts and whatever you wanted to do. And they had websites where like you could just customize it with like a UI, and then it would make the code for you, and you would just copy and paste it into your MySpace to make it look like it. And then the other thing that you could like embed a song into your profile and change it like on a daily basis if you wanted, like, so like if someone clicked on,
it
it
was
someone
very
clicked on your
cool.
profile, the song would just play. And like they would like, it's like kind of like you could like, it was part of like, who you are, it's like, oh, this is the song, this is the mood I'm feeling today, this song, and someone would click on your MySpace page and be like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, like, and it was a good way to find new bands, like you said. And there really hasn't been anything like that. And it's so, I always say like, we all like freaking made the big mistake. We like forsook Tom. Tom was the guy who created MySpace, and like, everybody was friends with Tom. That was like by default, you were friends with Tom, like when you made your page. And like, everyone, like when Facebook started to get popular in the mid 2000s, like to early or late 2000s rather, like everyone started migrating over to Facebook because it was so much better, and it's so much better than MySpace, like blah 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 blah. And it's like, no, we should go back because MySpace was like,
it was
it was
much
so
better.
much better. And I think there's actually a website. There's
really
a website
was.
now that's like trying to like clone MySpace, like the early days of MySpace, basically.
Honestly, Mark is half the Tom that he'll ever
he really
be.
is. I hope Tom is living a great life wherever he is now. I hope he got a lot of
With
money
his
for
squillions. I
whatever
hope
when
so
he sold
too.
MySpace. I hope he got like plenty of money to live on for the rest of his life and retire.
I saw a documentary on it once, and he did. I think the Wall Street Journal of all places wound up with it somehow, and they like paid a crap ton of money and didn't know what to do with it, so they like let it die and killed it in 6 months. But by then, Tom rode off into the sunset. Good
Space
for Tom.
Hey. Okay, so Space Hey, SPACEHEY, is basically these people are making it's a website, a social media website that is basically like MySpace in its heyday in like 2005.
Oh crap!
MySpace. So
yeah,
that
wow. Hey, it's Lenza, Ball Tickler, Claudia, and Ale are the cool new people. Who is Ball Tickler? Oh, and hey, Doja Cat is on there on the music, and merchandise. Let's see, who is Ball Tickler? Okay, they have an anime thing. They have 2 friends. Holy crap, this is perfect! This looks just
is
like
OG
it.
MySpace.
Wow, I love this. Oh, I want one.
And you used to have your top friends. Remember that? Like you would have like your top 8.
Yeah, no, they have them there.
You would have your this is turning into a MySpace podcast now.
Yes, this is. We're going off on a big
it was
tangent
just
here.
like you had your top 8 friends, and like you could change it and edit it. So it's like it was kind of like the first like way to like subtly like fucking like be an asshole to someone that you knew. It's like, oh, I'm moving you out of my top 8, like kind of thing. It's like you got in a fight with somebody.
Yeah.
They would get downgraded in your top 8 friends. It was just like it was the epitome of like high school like bullshit. But it was like it was just so good. It was, and it's sad that Facebook took over because MySpace was just better in every way.
Yes, and Facebook has just gotten progressively
the
worse.
algorithm is so bad now. It's so stupid.
Yeah. Oh, they're on Space Hey. It's privacy friendly. There's no algorithms, no tracking, no personalized ads. Just a safe space for you and your friends to hang out online. That's the copy. It's also like retro social. All the things you missed most about social networks are back. Blogs, bulletins, forums, and so much more. Join today. There's over 750,000 others, and you can always be. Why not one more?
It's funny because like you look at all the profiles and they're
also,
all like anime profiles.
They should pay us.
They should pay us.
They should pay us to sponsor.
Yeah, we're
this.
really fucking like plugging them right now.
What if Space Hay's just like what if there's like a giant weeb community?
Well, everybody has anime profile pics now. That's the thing. Like, just
no, I know. So like, is it? I guess, but yeah, what a weird thing. Yeah, I like this. I think it's fun. I hope this catches on and dominates. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about this. So let's get back
Yeah.
to Ghoul. Um, one of the fun things about their albums is they're always trying to do something like they're always trying to do something silly and they're always trying to top themselves. But on the last like full length album that they had called Dungeon Bastards, I thought that this was really great. They, if you bought the vinyl, the it opens out to a board game because Dungeon
That's
Bastards is
cool.
obviously a parody of
Yeah.
Dungeon Master, which is from Dungeons and Dragons. For the
Hmm.
folks who don't know, but yeah, if you open it up, it's a board game that you can, I mean, it doesn't come with
Yeah.
pawns or anything, but you can like, I mean, you could just use a board game piece from anything. It would be cool if they had made little like pieces that you could like die cast pieces that you could do for it, or like a Kickstarter for like a legit Dungeon Bastards like 3D board
Yeah.
game or something. But they didn't. Um, but I think it would be really fun if they did that. Maybe someone will like just do it and like make it on Etsy or something of just like Ghoul tokens.
Yeah.
But it's really funny. I don't have. Wait, do I? I don't know if I do actually. I don't believe that I have the album on vinyl, but maybe I'll just
You
buy
should.
it. I probably should. If I don't, you know what? I'm gonna look in my collection of vinyls tomorrow and see if I have this. And if I don't have it, then I'll probably buy
Uh,
it because it's also a really good
I just
album
want to.
anyway. They don't have a bad
Yeah.
album.
So I want to also do a quick shout out. Ghoul is on Tank Crimes. That's their label, and I, I used to be subscribed to like Tank Crimes newsletter. I don't know if I still am or not, but I used to get emails from Scotty from Tank Crimes all the time. Cause like, that was again another thing too, where like you don't really see that anymore. Is like, like getting newsletters anymore. You can't really sign up for them, and like, that was like how you kind of like got like you can get all kinds of like news about like cool shit, like and it was cool because it was actually like the guy who owns the album sending out emails basically to you, and yeah, you don't really see that anymore. Yeah,
It's too bad. But it's always nice to get when you get them. But yeah, Tank Crimes has a lot of like similar bands that are or like just like grind bands
yeah,
or like just like some grinded punk bands and just a lot of like thrash stuff
death
and things
metal.
like that. Like it's really just like a lot of like very
Yes,
indie stuff and Tank Crimes is
a
pretty
lot of
damn
big
awesome.
bands in like the new wave of thrash scene, or that were big at the time, that not necessarily that were thrash metal, but kind of also like that were like big with the and kind of crossed over with the thrash metal scene. Like, you had like Cannabis Corpse and Agoraphobic Nosebleed and Exhumed, yeah, a lot of different bands, Municipal Waste, they're all on, and Toxic Holocaust, of course. Um,
Yeah. And if you see like I mean if you see the logo of Tank Crimes, like the logo is like a ghoul head
yeah,
basically. So I want to say that like the guy who started Tank Crimes was like he was probably like Scotty. He was probably like a very like close friend of the actual band of Ghoul, and they probably like went in on it with him and then like helped him out to like let's try to make this into something. That's like because like otherwise why else would that be a thing? I mean, when was Tank Crimes founded?
um, that's a good question. 2002,
Yeah,
2002.
2002. Yeah, 2002. So they probably like that's probably what it was. They're probably like a good friend, or like I don't know, maybe like some of the Ghoul guys like even have like a stake in
Could
it,
be.
and they just kind of like helped him from the
Well, that
ground
was
up
like
and everything. I mean, it wouldn't be
of
surprising.
all the things that I look back on when in my music career back then, was like the unity in like in the scene at the time, like, and again, this is kind of like what killed the scene as well, because it was like it wasn't enough unity, especially in this area, but like other like, before like all the bullshit where like the pay to play really killed off everything, and like these younger bands just like didn't care and like kept like doing it, and like, and really like creating more of a problem, like the unity in the scene, like, everybody was like friends with everybody. You kind of like you knew people that were like like that lived across the country or even in other parts of the world, and like we're just friends with them by just like the fact that you were like the same music and played the same music. And like, like Tank Crimes, came up at the same time. There were a number of other labels. What was the oh crap? What am I thinking of?
Oh, do you think of Heavy
Well, there's
Artillery?
Heavy Artillery. I'm also there was a label that you interned at. Oh,
Oh, well,
Earache. Yeah, of
Earache. That's
course.
a
Yeah,
huge
Earache.
one.
Like all these labels, like it was like I don't know. It was just there was like this real like sense of community between the bands and the labels and all this indie. And I guess that's just like indie music in general. But like I don't know. That was like one of the most fun things that I look back on. Where like you could go to a show, an underground show, like that, all these guys on tour from California or wherever, and like you would walk into the room and like it was like you were like walking into a room full of your best friends that you've known for 20 years, and like you've never met them
It was
before,
great. Yeah. Where like now it's, I mean, they're getting better with like more of like a death metal like scene
Yeah,
is coming back, which it's just kind of repeating a
yeah,
natural cycle. Um, but like there, I mean, a few of the guys in the death metalish like scene, they're all like they're people that we used to play with, like Steve and
hmm
Devin. They're like there's from Bomb Scare and Toxicology. They're now in other bands. What is? Let me find out. Steve's is called Fester Gore, and they're like a really good like old school like
yeah,
death metal band. Um, and um, and what the hell is? I'm trying to find Devin's band and I can't find it. But he too is in a. He's in a Oxalate. That's the name of his other band. That's the
yeah,
name of his new band, and they're like a they're like a like a death and roll kind of band, and they're like
yeah.
really
I
cool.
think the new wave of thrash metal is largely dead. It kind of lost a lot of steam in the early, like the mid
Yeah,
2010s.
there's another really good band that like popped up during COVID that like got good fast called Tombstoner that like people
Yeah.
love here.
Um, I think the like it really kind of like more extreme metal kind of really took over the scene a little bit, like more grindcore and death metal and that and stuff in that vein. There was a
Yeah, and I bet that it has to do with I bet that it has to do with because it's a lot of people who were in like the
yeah,
thrashier scene and like saw how it went, and now they're just kind of like keeping the faith
yeah.
alive together.
There was kind of a surge in doom bands and like psychedelic rock slash doom for a
Yeah, for
bit
a little
too. I don't
bit.
know how that's been going. A lot of the bands still play. I think Blood Ceremony released an album pretty recently. Um,
They still
yes,
exist. I just don't think that it's like as
no,
strong as it was. I think it's just doing the natural progression into like
yeah,
extreme
which
stuff
there's
again.
always a cycle. It comes in cycles. There'll probably be another wave of thrash metal like in the future at some point, I'm sure. And especially when like the
Oh, I'm
younger
sure.
generations kind of start to discover this kind of music.
Well, perhaps your
Maybe.
child will be the forerunner of the new wave of
Yeah.
thrash metal, the redo of
The
thrash metal.
new
I don't
wave.
know.
The newer
I don't
wave of
know.
American thrash metal.
The
The
newest
newest wave.
wave,
The
the
latest
latest
wave.
wave, the latest wave. Um, yeah, I miss all
Yeah.
these things. It's so
Yeah.
much fun. But yes, Ghoul is very much the band that you should see on
Yeah.
Halloween.
Yeah, they are definitely, up there with like Halloween themed bands. Uh including, that Misfits, all that kind of thing. They're very much that, in that vein. They work really well. They're spooky metal.
Yes, they're
Yes.
spooktacular. They're real and they're spooktacular.
Yep.
But yeah, they're great bands. I've met them a couple of times, so I will get into the story. So when I was back in those days when I was a heavy metal journalist, I appeared in a couple of issues of Guitar World, which I am very happy that I was able to do that. I think it's really freaking awesome, and I still have those issues, so it was a
Hmm.
special moment. But I was doing this podcast, and I was also I was also writing for this was when I was in college. I was writing for my journalism professor, and who is still a friend of mine, Mr. Pat. I will not disclose his full name to protect the innocent, but I was writing for his site, and I was also doing my thing with my old podcast, and I did and while I was interning for Earache, I reached out to other like metal PR companies, and I was working with Earsplit PR a number of things, and they still send me albums and for like press releases and things to this day of like just albums before they go on sale and everything. And I don't really listen to them a whole lot because I don't really use that email anymore. But it's nice to know that I'm still on their mailing list for stuff. So if I wanted to get back in the swing of things, I could probably get back into into going to like shows and meeting all these folks and doing episodes with them and what have you. But anyway, um, I Ghoul was coming to town, and I had not gotten to see Ghoul, so I was super excited, as anybody would be. So I I did two interviews. One of them was a regular phone call with Digester, and we had like a whole like conversation after the fact, just like talking about like just the new Carcass album at the time and how like I did not like the production and and he was like, "Really? I thought it was okay." And then I started like breaking down what I disliked about it. He was like, "Oh yeah, you're right. That stuff is weird." Or like, "Oh, I didn't notice that. Oh man, that's not good." Or like, and then he started to dislike the album a little bit on the production too after because he was like, "Yeah, I always wondered why it sounded like that." And I was like, "Ah, I honestly think that they get that like because so many things changed hands in like with the production department and everything that they were like it just was like a mess because the guy that it wound up in Andy Sneap, who normally does a better job than he did on that, I think he just had too much on his plate and was like, and there might have been a couple of things that he missed because God knows like how like rushed of a job this had to be for
Hmm.
him. So I don't know. But anyway, the album's fine, but I think that it should have been better. But the original guy, Colin Richardson, was supposed to be producing it, and then he like, I don't know, he like had to leave the production. He like dropped the production for some reason, like halfway through it. So it was like this garbled thing that they had to find somebody to just like do something with it. But anyway, I did also get to talk to Carcass too, which is really neat, and interview them. But anyway, so one of the times, so like that was one of the times where I'm talking with Ghoul, and also like I kind of had to because like Ghoul does their whole like gimmick, like they stay in gimmick throughout the whole thing. They wear the potato sacks and they like do the voices
That's
during their
amazing.
interviews. Like yeah, it's similar to
Yes.
Guar, where like they stay in gimmick. So we're in St. Vitus. I go down to the dressing room and I'm just like, "Oh, hey man, I'm supposed to do an interview with you." And I just wanted to say I'd be upstairs over by I I'll be over at the bar. I'll be in the corner next to the next to King Diamond Head or whatever. And they're like, "Oh, okay." So I'll like see you there. And it's like, "Yep." So, a few minutes later, he gets ready. He shows up and he's got the potato sack on his head. And he's like, "Okay, let's do this." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I'm like, "Are we doing this downstairs in the back?" Or like, he's like, "Oh, just come to the van." And I'm like, "Okay." So we go into their like
Hmm.
touring van, which is like which is just this like beige,
Yeah.
minivan from probably like early 2000s or something. It's probably the same van that they started with, like just hitched up to like a U-Haul or something. and he's like wearing the sack or whatever, and we're going into the thing, and then he sits down. We sit down in the van, which was kind of cool. Just that I got to be in their tour van, and we're sitting down, and he's like, oh, what is your camera? And I'm like, oh, this is all audio. I'm not gonna like, I don't have a camera with me. He and he's like, oh, um, can can I still wear the mask? And I'm like, yeah, of course you can still wear it. So we do the whole interview like with no camera, just all audio, and he's wearing the mask inside of the touring van, and and we talked for like a good 30, 40 minutes, and like, like good banter. Like, of course, I was like playing off the gimmick. I probably thought I did a good job, but I probably sounded like an idiot, which is the point. And yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of fun. I think it was like just after Dungeon Bastards had come out.
Great.
So it was a very fun time. And then they went in and they played a great freaking show. I was so happy that I got to see Ghoul. Even if I would love to see them again, but I don't know when the next time they'll come this way is, because it seems like they're coming through like less and less, and like part of it was probably because of all the damage that COVID's done like to the economy, but also like just in general, like, this was nearly 10 years ago.
And listen,
so finances across the board have changed for everybody and responsibilities. Even if it's not inflation, it's been 10 more years. You can't, like, if they can't do it, they can't do it.
It's next to impossible to be a touring band when gas is like on average like $4 a gallon.
And also
it's just not possible.
Yeah, so I think they really only do like local shows in California now, so which is kind of a bummer, but like I get it. Like I totally get it. Like when Holtzboyer was explaining to us why like they've never done like a cross country tour or anything, and they've only really done the shows they've only done like tours in the UK and like in the surrounding California areas. It's because like they have expenses that need to be met, and they have like downside guarantees and all that stuff, and they're like, they're running a business. So I totally understand if it's not feasible for you to do it, then why would you do it? Which is something that always annoyed me whenever I would try to speak to somebody in the scene who was up and coming, and I would try to explain things to them that like you can't keep letting these venues like run you over. You can't keep just bending over for them and just like playing a free show at 2 a.m. and telling them and promising that you're going to sell their tickets. It's not your job. Like, it's not like you're not the promoter. So like you didn't book the bands. That's their job. You didn't book the show. You're on it. If you book the show, then you're the promoter, and now it's your job to promote the show and get the butts in the seats. But it's not your. But like, don't let them guilt trip you into thinking that it's your responsibility to make people come to their show. Which, for some weird reason, it's in this business, and I think it happens a lot in stand-up comedy too.
Yeah,
where people don't you don't understand that they're coming yes, they're coming to see you, but in the beginning they're not coming to see you. They're coming in the beginning they're coming for the show. They're not coming to see you. Later on they will come to see you, but you better make sure that you can stick around long enough for that to happen. And by doing that, you have to understand that you're not like, you're in a band, but you're not in a band. You're running a business. Like, you have merchandise. You want to sell a t-shirt? Okay, well, you're a salesman now. You're selling the t-shirt. Your product is the t-shirt because the music is free. Let's be honest. You're playing the show. They're paying. You just happen to be there. They're not paying to see you for like beginner shows. they're not paying to see you, they're paying to see the show. So like you're selling the t-shirt and you're selling a CD or whatever, or like a download card or whatever it is. You're like, yes, you're selling the music and you're giving them a free sample of the music that night, but you're making your money predominantly from your t-shirt. So you are in the t-shirt business, my friend. You have to sell that t-shirt. You have to find a way to make them part with their money and give it to you for your t-shirt instead of that beer they were thinking about that they don't need. That's what like and that's what people that's something that people tend to not really grasp a whole lot. You're selling merchandise as and like the music for the night is free. Like this is just like that's your 30-minute commercial.
Yes.
Basically for them to go over and buy the t-shirt or to buy the artwork on your album, since Spotify and like all these like streaming services have devalued music. Well, your product is not the music. Your product is your moneymaker is the merchant is the t-shirt or a fancy shot glass or whatever it is that you sell or like some novelty. Right? Like that's what you're trying to sell.
Apparel, really.
And but yeah, what I would try to tell them is, listen, you're running a business and you need to like start setting some ground rules. And they're like, oh, well, what if we never play another show for them? And I'm like, so what? There's other venues. Or so what? Just find out how much it costs. And then like, and if you run out of venues, then there's plenty of VFW halls or like things that you could rent where you could do it. Like they're like you don't need the venue. The venue needs you because they're the ones with the overhead.
If you rent like a VFW hall or anything like that, and you put a $10 cover charge on the door, guess what? You'll easily break even and pay that off, and then you could focus on getting the bands to sell merch so that they can make some money too. Like no one ever like really understood that.
It's not hard.
It's not hard.
And like we tried to explain this to many people, and they just never did it.
Everyone wanted to go the easy route, and that was like to keep like fucking doing the same stupid like bullshit and supporting venues that literally exploited the scene. That's all they did was exploit the scene. And they milked.
Yeah, if you're going on at 2:00 in the morning on a Wednesday, don't sit there wondering why no one's there for you.
You're playing to the other
why there's no one there.
Pretty much like.
Yeah, it's a glorified practice at that point. And don't take the bullshit exposure line of, oh, we're playing with a huge band, so we can't miss this opportunity. Yeah, you and 30 other bands for a show that starts at 2:00 in the afternoon for the main band to go on at like 10:00. Get the hell out of there, and then you finish the night at 2 in the morning after the headliner has played. Like,
not only they've played, they've left. They're gone already on the road to the next gig. So
like, what exposure did you get?
That's the thing. It was
and also this isn't like those days where like very rarely would like you be on a show. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I'm saying it's like probably like a 0.1% chance where like even Scott Steiner couldn't do the math on how rare it is for like anyone to get a big break by playing a show at 2:00 in the morning for the band that like and the headliner just happened to have not left at that point and decided, oh, we should take you on the road with us from now on, or hey, we'll introduce you to Mr. and Mrs. Bigot who like run our record label, and then your rock star dreams are fulfilled. I'm not going to say that doesn't happen, but it's like so.
I guarantee it's probably never happened.
Unbelievably tiny. It's maybe it hasn't. I don't know, or at least not in current times. I would be surprised if it's happened in current times.
No, you had like you had a whole generation of I'm going to say promoters with quotes because they weren't really promoters that literally
they were freaking grifters,
absolute, like fucking con artists, and all they did was milk the metal scene for all it was worth until it was dead, and then they moved on to like other scenes, and that's all they did. You know.
Yep. The day that they started doing
Yes.
rap shows at that venue, I was like, oh, okay, that's it.
Yeah, so the metal scene is milked, and now they can't get any more money from them. So let's go on to the rap scene and try to get those people, and we'll milk them too. And you know, it just that's how it went.
Yeah, that's yep. Well, but anyway, yeah, I like to conclude that tangent. Yeah, I totally understand why Ghoul doesn't come around a whole lot, but the next time that they do, I will be, well, assuming that they come around one more time, I will be so happy to see them. And if I never see them again, I am so gifted and lucky and blessed that I was able to actually see them and hang out with them, kind of. Like, like, there's a lot of really cool, there's just a lot of really cool things. And there's, like, they're all nice guys. It's just a great band, and they call all their fans Ghoul Lunatics because we're in the Ghoul Lunatic Asylum, and it's just, I love it. They're just so funny. Oh, that's what we talked about, because it was a Christmas episode. It was around Christmas time when we did the second interview, the one over the phone, and we were talking about the Star Wars special, and he, of course, was like in his Ghoul gimmick. So, like, Digester loved the Star Wars special, and it was his favorite thing to watch, and he watched it every day. And he celebrated Life Day because it gave them the closest thing that they could have to hope in Creepsylvania, because he found the special in a dumpster.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So he was just like, "Do you celebrate Life Day?" And I was like, "Oh God, no!"
That's hilarious.
He's like naming all these other characters from like the Star Wars special. And he's like, "Are they in the Star Wars movies?" And I'm like, "No, no, they are not. They are gone and forgotten."
Classic.
Yeah, just it was really funny. Wherever, I don't even know if it still exists.
So what, the Star Wars?
But
or your interview?
The podcast, the interview. I don't know if it exists, but I don't know if I forget. Maybe I called it Christmas Time with Ghoul or something weird like that. But yeah, what a fun time.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
but that's my Ghoul story.
All right.
But yeah, great band, really awesome music, just really great ass kickers. Like, really fun band. I love them.
Yeah, they're definitely they're fun. They're hilarious. Their characters are pretty funny, and you know, their music is good. It's, you know, it's really, it's just hard, like really hard hitting thrash, grind, death, like all mixed together.
Surf.
With funny lyrics, you know.
Yes. Funny lyrics, bizarre lore, and a whole lot more. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
But yes, Ghoul. I like Ghoul. Ghoul is cool. That's all I've got to say about that.
That's it.
But yeah, I guess that's it. Oh, I've got some. I got something I gotta say. So I was training for this 5K. I was very, very excited to go to go run a 5K. I was listening to Ghoul while I was running my training 5Ks. And we were supposed to do it on Sunday. And wouldn't you know it, last night I get an email. Well, first of all, we've got to walk this back a couple other days. So I get a random charge on my card. With this past Sunday, I get a random charge on my card, and I get the notification from the good people at Capital One, and they're like, "Hey, did you authorize a $99 payment or whatever it was?" And I'm like, "No, I did not." And they're like, there may be a fraudulent charge. So I'm like, I call them up and I say, hey, what the hell is this? Because it's just a bunch of letters and numbers of like the transaction. So I don't even know what it is. I'm like, so I'm thinking maybe it is a fraud. So I call them up and I'm like, can you just tell me the name of the company that did this? And they're like, okay, sure. It's like, such and such company. And I'm like, okay, what did they do? Their athletic stuff. And I'm like, oh, these bastards. I know what this is. So when I signed up to do the 5K, they it was like $50 to do it. You were supposed to get a t-shirt and, some thing to commemorate it and some other, and like your number or whatever it costs. And I guess it helps them like rent out the space. So like from the city so that they can do the 5K because it's in a public place. It was on like a pier. So, okay, that makes sense. So like the regular thing was like $50, and then there was like a whole like thing where it's like, oh, you're signed up to a trial where like you would get a 99, where like you would get all of this, like all of these discounts of like all of these like fitness things and an app and whatever to workouts and like, all this other stuff, which to be fair, it was a pretty good bargain if I was like really active and really, really into that. But I'm not, so I wouldn't really use it. I wouldn't use it for any of the discounts. I wouldn't actually like do any of these things other than maybe another like 5K, which I'd happily just pay the full price because I'm only going to do this once or twice a year at best. So I don't need the trial. So it's like, oh, you're automatically signed in for the for this thing, but don't worry. Well, you'll be auto charged when the trial ends, but you can cancel it at any time. So like anybody, probably exactly who they're after. I don't remember this because a month goes by, I get hit with this charge, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that when I signed up, I opted out to get it to not get it so that I wouldn't be charged.
Yeah.
Because the missus did the same thing, and she opted out to not get it, and so did her sister. We got hit with the charge anyway.
Bitches.
The sons of bitches. So, that's what that is. So, it doesn't go through because it was blocked by the good people at Capital One, so I called them, and when we got over this, I said, yeah, I'm not authorizing this charge. This charge never should have happened, so do not let it go through. It might not be fraudulent, but just treat it as it is. I'm not paying. So I go on the site, I log in, I manage the thing, and I opt out. And I guess because it was the same day, it like probably would have like phased it out anyway. But whatever. So I get an email last night. The thing would have been in 2 days. So I get an email last night at like 6:30, which is the worst possible time to send an email to anybody. And it's just this generic auto thing. The missus got it. Her friend who was supposed to be doing this with us probably also got it and is also probably pissed. Her sister got it, who was so pissed that she signed up for a different 5K in a different state altogether because she was like, I've been training, I'm doing this. I mean, she's nuts because she's training for a half marathon at Disney. So, that's something I can't do. Right. But good for her. That is going to be a fun day. And very, very relaxing the next day when she's asleep in the bed because she will not be able to move. And she'll probably be at a nice Disney hotel and they'll send her up lots of pancakes and Belgian waffles and all the fixins, and I bet it'll be nice, but will she be sore. Anyway, so we get the thing. So we get the stupid email, and they're like, and then at the end, it's just like, oh, we're also gonna hold we'll be holding your funds for so that you can redeem them for to sign up for another 5K in 2024. Oh, why 2024? Because all of their 2023s happen to be conveniently booked out. They also were like, oh, this has only ever happened 3 times. we had to cancel our 5K, our 10K, and our half marathon all in the same day. This has only happened 3 times in our 20-year history. And I'm like, dude, well, why are you canceling this? I checked the weather. Nope. Weather's supposed to be sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. And so that's not a problem. And I'm like, okay, well, this is kind of weird. They don't mention it. So obviously, maybe there's an issue with the money. Maybe everybody got hit with the $100 charge even though they didn't want it. And they all were like, no, we don't want this. And like, give us our money back. Don't charge this. And they probably lost all their funding because they're probably, I mean, also, we live in an age where people are not very active in general, and less people are being active in like fitnessy and everything. So like there was probably a very low turnout. So, there's that.
Could be.
So I'm sure that obviously it always comes down to money with these things. So maybe they couldn't secure the permit with the city, or maybe they like fell short of the money because they thought that they would have enough money and they actually wouldn't make any. So maybe they decided to cancel it, or maybe they couldn't get volunteers. Who knows? Who knows in this world? But I would have appreciated them if they actually told me what the hell was going on and why they were canceling this thing. I don't even care about the $50 that they're trying to hold hostage. I emailed them today, like, no, just give me a refund. Crickets. So I don't even care. Like, I care about it a little bit because I'd like to, like, just have the money so that I don't forget about it next year. But now I'm just like, why didn't you just tell me what the hell is going on? What was the reason for you canceling this? Because, if not enough people, if you didn't make enough money to justify it, or if something fell through, I would like to know. As someone who paid to do this, I would like to know. As someone who blocked out my whole weekend to do this, I would like to know. To someone who wanted to train for this thing for like a couple of months, I would like to know, because I can't get my time back. So I don't know, but if I can't get my money back, I may just use the credit, assuming that there is still a credit and they don't run off with it or declare bankruptcy or any of those things that could possibly happen in the next couple of months. Because also, who's going to do a 5K in the winter time? Yeah. This is going to be
your lungs will freeze.
This is going to be at least, this is going to be at least like, 6 months out when I can even sign up for one of these damn things. So I'll probably forget. But if I don't forget, then I'll probably use the credit. But I'm not giving them another red cent.
Yeah.
But who knows if I can, and at that point, I'm only going to be signing up out of spite. So this is going to be my spite 5K. And it would have been my first one. So maybe I'll find another organization and do a 5K with them. So that that way it doesn't ruin the moment. But I just would like a little bit of transparency. Is that too much to ask in this day and age?
Yes.
Well, then I hope Ghoul hunts them down and feeds them to the killbot. This has been Why Does This Exist?
And I've been
Chris. And remember, question everything. Everybody.